Hi everyone, welcome to the new webinar series, part of our Anglers Unite campaign. This is a way for us to learn and to stay passionate about fishing for those who aren't able to get on the water right now. During this webinar, I'm going to start off and tell you why we built the Ghost trolling motor. And we're going to watch a short video about its benefits for anglers on the water. And we're going to close out the series, we're going to close out the webinar with a Q&A. We've got product experts on the chat line for you, so please log in, post questions, and we'll answer them there as they go on, and I'll also be able to demonstrate some of these things right here from my garage. So first off, we started the Ghost in 2015, and you may say, why did it take you so long to get it to the market? But it takes a lot to build something from scratch, and if you know anything about something from scratch, it usually is the best you can do. And so we started with building a lab in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And in that lab, we bought every competitive trolling motor we could, and we torture tested it so that we could see how the competition performs, when and where they break, so that as we designed our trolling motor, it would go above and beyond. And so this trolling motor has a lot of durability built into it. We knew that anglers needed reliability first and foremost. And so we did things like include a 360 breakaway so that you won't have to worry about breaking shafts. We took away mechanical steering cables, which are the first thing to break, and went all digital. And of course, you probably know this, we removed brushes from trolling motors so that you no longer have brushes to wear out and overheat. Secondly, we knew that anglers wanted to be very quiet. And so we named it the Ghost because it's quiet. But when the motor is on underwater, our validator said, we can't even hear this thing, it's so quiet. And we knew right away that we had built the quietest trolling motor. We also have a very quiet steering motor so that it doesn't set up on the front of your boat while you're anchoring, making crazy noises. And it does all that very quietly. And so as we went on developing the trolling motor, we brought in experts from the field, service centers, the guys who repaired more trolling motors and have seen more problems in the field than we could ever attest for. And so we did 6 design integrations with service centers, the guys who actually fix and repair trolling motors, to make sure we did smart things. We increased bushing sizes. We improved materials. We did so much based on their recommendations to make sure we had it extremely reliable. Next up, we did a lot of validation. And so we had 50 trolling motors that ran for nearly an entire year before we launched this product. And so those validators are hardcore anglers. We told them to go out and beat it up, run it into the bank, run it into the stumps, treat it just as you would your trolling motor. Go into skinny water, it doesn't matter. And so we were really able to get real life hours on these to make sure that when we sold it to you, that you'd be very happy. And so the program was a success. We launched it at ICAST. We started shipping it in Q4 late last year. And since then, we've sold a lot of Ghosts, and we've got a lot of great reviews and a lot of happy customers. And so I'm going to turn it over to a video right now so you can see the design and how it went into the on-the-water benefits.
Hi, I'm Lucas Stewart, Product Manager for the Lowrance Ghost trolling motor. I'm sure you've heard about the Ghost trolling motor and all of its great advantages, but today we're going to take a deeper dive and spend some time on the water so that you as anglers can see how much time we put into it developing these little features that will make your time on the water really great. All right, we put a lot of thought into the stowing and deploying of the trolling motor. So first off, we got a stainless cable that won't break on you throughout the day. We've also integrated this great hook right here into the head of the trolling motor. It gives us greater leverage. After stowing and deploying the trolling motor so many times in a day, it wears on your back. So making this as light as possible for you to pick up. So you pick it up, and this hook, now I have full control to let it down as fast or as slow as I want. It's a great feature. The other thing is the cable management. So you no longer have the spinning head with the coily cables. And so we have this great digital steering cable that tucks right into the mount. It's no longer laying on top of our big HDS screens or flopping around on top of our rods while running down the lake. And when I bring it back up here, you'll notice it automatically aligns and lays down sideways. So I don't have to worry about steering it into place in big waves. It's gonna come in and lock down right there for me. Dual assist gas spring is really awesome for reducing the weight of stowing and deploying. So it actually works 4 different ways. First, it helps pop it up on the deck, and then it helps catch it on the way down. And then once it's stowed, it helps pop it back up and catch it on the way back down to the deck. One of the benefits of having a really fast trolling motor is instead of going back and setting down and starting my motor, if I want to jump across the cove, a couple hundred yards, I can now point the trolling motor over that way and put it on high speed and really get after it. So it saves time and it allows me to be a more efficient angler. This is a very typical way to fish, fishing a ledge or a point out here. And the thing that's really changed trolling motors over the last few years has been the ability to GPS anchor and to keep you on a spot. We call it anchor lock. So with here, I've got a dedicated button on the pedal. Simply push that button, it's gonna hold me in this spot. The thing that's really important about the way it holds you here is it's not going to apply too much thrust and create a big whitewater situation. It's called the ghost. We're supposed to be quiet when we're trying to catch fish, and it should be no different when you're on anchor. And so being able to hold you in a tight radius without still scaring the fish is important. Another great benefit is there's 0 transducer interference. So you get crystal clear sonar. So in this situation, I'd probably be vertical fishing, I'd be flipping out a nice little curly tail and bringing it back through here, trying to catch them small amount. But it's really important to have a good GPS anchoring system that does not scare the fish. Fishing on. Woo! There we go. Nice one. There we go. All right. Spotted bass. Another great thing about not having the moving head and coily cables is when you're on the anchor mode, when you have it on anchor lock. And as you can see, I'm holding this position and everything's steering down below the water surface. All I'm seeing is the arrow indicator move slightly. And with the prop being so quiet, when you're in anchor mode, most of the people on the boat won't know it because they don't hear it and they can't see it. As we were developing the Ghost trolling motor, reliability was king. And so some of the small things we did to ensure that is this magnetic arrow. So you can see it actually is free spinning. And instead of having splines like the old days where the water could drip down through them, we're able to put a full silicone umbrella over all the critical components. So even if you smash this on a dock in a big downpour, you're gonna be able to keep water out. The other nice thing is it lights up at night whenever you apply the thrust, so you can see which way you're going. How many times does it happen to you when you're working down a shallow bank? You may make the wrong cast and get hung up. One of the design features of our product is it allows you to have an extra place to go stand at the front to really be able to get out in front of your boat. So we made the mount totally flat on top. The point is so you can get out and get in there and get your baits free. It's also great if you're bed fishing and you need a little bit more height to be able to see down in the water. You can definitely get up here and get a better view and be able to easily move around. We spent a lot of time designing the foot pedal. First off, it feels really good. It's got the right tension, but we added some really cool integration features. So we've got these really cool shortcut keys. They were very popular on our HDS Lives where we had the same style of shortcut keys. So what we can do with these is we can save unique waypoints. So instead of bending over and touching your Lowrance, sometimes giving away your secret spot by other fishermen on looking, you can now use your foot to save a waypoint. You can also program keys to do power pulls up and down. So you've got your foot in the command center here. It's nice to be able to control everything around waypoints, your power poles, even set your constant on, all that from these programmable keys that you can set up through the UI on the Lowrance displays, on the Lives, Carbons, and TI2s. All right, we're approaching some flooded timber. So it's really important to have that muscle memory steering. So if you've ever grown up using a cable steer trolling motor, you'd know that as you position and point your foot and as you move your foot, you know exactly where that trolling motor is pointed without looking at the arrows. The problem with those trolling motors is those mechanical cables are the first thing to wear out. And so we have a digital steering system that still gives you that same muscle memory that allows you to, quickly move in and out of the trees. You don't have to think about the driving, lets you focus on making the right cast into the areas. But if you know about muscle memory, it's just like putting your seatbelt on in your car. When you get in the car, it just happens. You don't think about it. You don't have to think about grabbing the seatbelt and pulling it in and finding the clip. It just happens. The same way as I negotiate through the trees, I'm able to quickly move the trolling motor left and right, be able to move around, find the right angles on these trees to make the right cast, get it into the shade. But that's the critical part, and it took us a while to get it perfect, but it's great. So you get really fast steering, but you get that muscle memory still. Integration is really important. So we've got a few ways we integrate. Obviously, we've got the sonar and the nose cone, which we can pull into the displays, but we can also steer the motor right from the HDS Live, Carbon, and TI2. Now, what's really great about doing that is your chart plotter has a fantastic mapping. It lets you know, where depth changes are. It has all your waypoints, all your old trails, your data that allows you to help you catch fish. And so by having the integration to steer now to that data is really, really important. And we make it as easy as possible to do that. Show you a couple things. We've got obviously some of the same things as you find on the pedal with anchor and course lock and setting up some easy turns. But the things that I use the most are like this. So if I just touch the screen and let's say I want to go to that cursor, you just say go to cursor, it's going to pull up the say autopilot and go. You say yes, it's going to take you to that spot, and then you can choose to anchor on that spot or continue in that heading. And then the other really great thing to do is set up a route. So you touch on the chart, you select new, you go to route. Now this is going to let you just be able to create a route anywhere on the chart. So you can make it along contour lines, you could use river channels, you could use your structure map if you've gone out and mapped an area, or even your live mapping to make that info. So look, my first spot's going to be right there. I'm going to come out here and troll along this contour line. And look, there's my waypoint 5-pounder. I'm going to put my last point there so it anchors right on top of it. So now we can save this, route 2. And now that it's saved and I select it, I can choose to navigate it. So my route 2, now I can start the route, and I can choose to do this from the forward to the back. So if you've got a really productive route going, when you get to the end of it, you can simply reverse it and go right back down it. And you can set your speed to be 1 mile per hour. So if you're slow trolling for walleye, 1 mile an hour, it can do that, and you can have it automatically adjust for your wind and currents. So really easy integration right from your touchscreens. There's 3 easy ways to steer the Lowrance Ghost trolling motor. So first is the foot pedal. And for bass anglers, as they're holding fishing rods, this is the #1 way to steer, through muscle memory like we talked about earlier. Secondly, we have the key fob. And so this is a nice lightweight, be able to steer it left, right, thrust up and down, and it also has a hold for anchor. Once it's in anchor mode, you can jog around the spot really quickly. Nice and lightweight, won't weigh you down throughout the day. And then last, through the Lowrance HDS Live, Carbon, and TI2. And it plugs in through simple NEMA 2000. All Ghost motors come with that connection standard. It's nothing extra you have to buy. And most boats have a NEMA 2000 network, so it's a simple plug and play, all in the box, ready to go solution. A reliable and robust design is really important when it comes to durability. And you're out here fishing as a bass angler, you're gonna run into structure. I mean, that's where the bass are, and you're gonna fish around it. So we intend upon users to run into things. And we've gave you a mechanical solution. Basically, it's a 360 breakaway. It works as a knuckle. When you hit something, it deflects, kicks back, or deflects off to the side, and it helps you avoid it. If you rely solely upon a composite shaft to take the full load of an impact, eventually shafts will break. And when a shaft breaks, your day on the water is done. So the mechanical solution that we've got is really robust and strong, and you can see here, it does a great job of being able to take a strong impact. This is the Lowrance Ghost trolling motor. Built by anglers, for anglers just like you. We built it to be the most reliable, quietest, strongest, and most efficient motor you can put on your boat. To learn more, go to lowrance.com.
All right, looks like we've got a lot of questions coming in, so that's great. So first thing I'm going to show you is how to configure these shortcut keys on your HTS Live. So press your Pages button, go into your settings, go to Autopilot, and there's a Configure Trolling Motor keys right there. And now it's going to tell you for shortcut key 1, 2, and 3, how to change those key functionalities. So within that list, you have several options. One is no function. So if you're someone who doesn't want to accidentally hit any keys, you can choose no function for all of the keys if you would like. Or if you want to just throw your foot at it and hit anchor for any of the keys, you could set all of them for anchor. We have a heading lock key. We have a course lock key. I saw a question earlier about how can I engage course lock or heading lock. This would be one great way to do that. We have a constant on, and then really cool power pull auto up and auto down. So that allows you to not necessarily have to mount separate buttons up on the front deck, kind of decluttering it and have that right there. And then my favorite is Waypoint. And so you can quickly mark a waypoint right there. And once you're done, you just hit save and away you go. So next I'll talk a little bit about the 3-in-1 nose cone. So I know it's a little delayed. We should be shipping it by the middle of next month, or yeah, by the middle of May. I've got one here on this trolling motor. It is awesome to have side scan if you know what you're doing with trolling motors. So obviously, as you turn fast, you're going to smear that side scan sonar. But for some people, they like to be able to get that side scan information. So the 3-in-1 is great. I'll give you a quick view of how easy that is to change out. And so here I have an HDI nose cone. And you can see inside that nose cone, we just have a nice little short pigtail. Basically, it allows you to plug and play these nose cones from the HDI that comes standard to the 3-in-1. So on the front of the nose cone here, you'll just use an Allen key to take off this beauty cap. A lot of threads. And then down inside there, you can see there's another bolt, and that allows you to completely take it off. Now it is a sealed nose cone, but if you did have water get inside this area, don't worry, it's not going to get into the motor. It's the plug and everything is sealed. And so it's easy for you, an angler, to change out. This is something that you don't have to take to a service center. So nice and easy. We have questions around when are the longer shaft trolling motors going to be available. So we have the 52 and 60-inch trolling motors coming in September, and they'll be available then. So getting some questions around what units are capable of connecting with the Ghost. So HDS Live, HDS Carbon, and Elite TI2 will all connect via NEMA 2000. And so if you're having, if you're wondering how to connect, it's simple through NEMA 2000. And so a lot of boats have NEMA 2000 backbones already ran throughout them. And so the Ghost ships with a T cable, and you just drop it into the boat's backbone. Now the way that you go and check to make sure it's connected is pretty simple. You go into your settings again, and you go to your network, and you look at your device list. This shows you everything that's on. And so here you can see it shows Ghost trolling motor at the top. Now you do have to have your foot pedal turned on for your Ghost to show up on the network. So if you're having issues getting your trolling motor command bar on the side, you'd want to troubleshoot that NEMA 2000 network. Make sure your trolling motor is turned on, and make sure that your Carbon, Live, and TI2 are upgraded to the latest software that's on our website. And that ought to get you going. So With the remote, we talked about it. I've got some questions of will a remote with a display be available? For this particular market, for this style of scissor mount trolling motor, for the bass guys, we haven't seen very many people use the remote, and that's one of the reasons we made it optional and lightweight. Is because when we did the focus groups with anglers, their trolling motors, they said, had shipped with remotes, and they had 19 out of the 20 didn't know where it was at anymore. And so it was one way for us to make sure to keep our price as low as we could on the trolling motor and leave this as an optional accessory. So obviously in the future, when we build new trolling motors, we will look to incorporate different styles of remotes with those. All right, so I got a question around what is the runtime? That's a great question. What I can tell you is that we are 60% more efficient in general than a brushed trolling motor you've probably previously owned. And so what that means is if you're today, you get 10 hours out of your batteries, we'll get 16 hours out of yours with a brushless ghost trolling motor. That's an insane difference. One of the things, like I talked about earlier, was our validators. The first time they took it to the water and fished for a full day, they got back and plugged in their chargers, and it still showed that it had 75% batteries. And so that, a lot of times, statistics and data and facts like that are kind of overlooked. But 60% more efficient is a big, big difference. For me, if I'm going to anchor in a really windy point and be able to fish for a long time in a tournament, I now know that I can stay there a long, long time and don't have to change where I really want to fish based upon my trolling motor batteries. So they do work a lot longer. Let's see. So how do you make trolling motor follow structure or routes? And then I'll show you that. So kind of as I showed there on the video, it's quite easy to create a route right along the structure. Or so here I've got just a local lake pulled up, and so if I wanted to create a route on this and have it go along where the depth changes are, or if I wanted to have it go along and change the depth, it's real simple and easy to drop those new routes and save them. So I go into new route here on the sidebar, and now I can just start my place by touching on the screen. So on this one, I've done my custom colors of my map. So that red is 0 to 5, orange is 5 to 10, yellow is 10 to 20. So it makes it quick and easy to see by the eye. So now I can say, I want to actually stay on this 15-foot line. So now I drop my first one, drop my second one, and you can see how quick and easy it is to make that happen. But then say, I'd really like to then try a different depth, and I can jump out to the next contour line and further create these points. I can save this route. I can navigate it forward and backwards. I can set the speed, so I can do my trolling speeds, but it's really nice and easy to do. That one. You can also go in and edit and move these points. All right. So I had a question there. Is it 60% more efficient because of it has less power? No, it's not often that you can not sacrifice something to get something else. But in our, for us, we actually have more thrust. So up to 120 pounds of thrust on 36 and 96 pounds of thrust on 24. So what's great is if you put this trolling motor in replace of yours today, you should easily expect half a mile an hour more top end speed, or maybe even up to a full mile an hour top end speed. So you get more power and it's more efficient even at those top end speeds. Yeah, the way I like to explain brushless to average, or to people who have probably been out shopping for brushless in the cordless drill category. So if you walk into a hardware store and you go look at drills, you're going to see a brush drill. It's going to be more affordable. And then you're going to see your brushless drill. It's going to be lighter weight. It's going to be more efficient. It's going to be longer lasting. And all of those same things you see in the brushless cordless drill market translate directly into trolling motors. But the one other added benefit you get is that you don't have those brushes arcing around your transducer. And so you don't get any sonar interference. And that's a big deal because as we've moved to more vertical fishing and tracking jigs and baits, being able to get crystal clear returns and see those your baits and targets is really important. All right, so question around, if you already have a 0.1 compass, do you have to install the compass heading sensor that comes with Ghost? And the answer is yes. There's a few reasons why, but it's really simple and easy to install. And so the Ghost trolling motor cannot use the 0.1. It's very simple to install the compass heading system. It plugs directly into the trolling motor foot pedal, so it's a very easy wire routing, and you can do it and mount it, up on the front of your boat. Just making sure that you don't have any magnetic interference. And we do have a compass calibration procedure that we'll post there in the chat, and we've got a great video that shows you how to do it. So if you have any anchoring issues, I'll just start off by saying, if you have an experience where you're not happy with the anchoring on the trolling motor, the very first thing I would do is calibrate your bow offset. And what I mean by that is whenever you, and this is definitely in the install manual, but when you deploy the trolling motor, it's obviously out of the box, it's aligned with the mount. And what you need to do is align it with the center of your boat so that your pedal is flat and so that when it's anchoring, it's pulling your boat straight forward. It's a real simple procedure to do. And so what we do is we put it into the water, the trolling motor, and we face the nose cone directly out the front of your boat, right in line with the keel of your boat. So then we put it into our configuration mode, which is holding down your back two buttons. You can hear it beep. There we go. And then you just simply press the anchor button and hold it till it beeps. And then press your back two buttons again to exit this configuration mode. So that's all it takes to do the bow offset. And next, like I said, is to calibrate that compass. And so it requires you to drive a 2 to 3 degree, 390 degree circle. So when I said at the cockpit of the boat, basically if you aim for 1 o'clock, you can do that 2 to 3 degree offset. And if you still have any issues there, you need to start looking to see if you have magnetic interference with your compass heading sensor. So that should answer any of those questions. One question there is, will you be able to pick a depth and have the Ghost follow that depth? You cannot do that through the sonar. And on ours, we can create a route by, like I just showed you, touching right against the contour lines. So it's nice and easy to do it, but we don't have an automatic way of doing it. The question is, do we need to install a trolling motor battery indicator? So on the Ghost pedal itself, next to the power button, there's actually a battery status that gives you a low, medium, or high, a red, yellow, or green. So no, I don't think you need to have one of those installed. And like I said, for the most part, you can fish an entire day without using hardly half your batteries with this trolling motor. So it's for me. I mean, I've been fishing on some rivers, below Table Rock, Lake Taneycomo in pretty heavy current, and I've been able to stay out multiple days without having a charge on this 21-foot bass boat. I got a question there about autopilot doesn't work. I can see it, but it asks to engage, but then the propeller does not turn. So once you start your autopilot, like you said, if you're going to engage that route, you then need to turn up the thrust. So it should be setting at 0, and that's a safety feature because we don't want it to start on that route at top speed. And so there should be you should go in and hit your plus button a few times, and it will increase your speed. Question there, can the shaft be cut to shorten? So no, I would not recommend it. So inside this shaft is a lot of wires. So obviously your sonar, your communication cables, and I would highly recommend not doing that. And then also when you get up into the where it connects into the PCB, you would have a really hard time of getting those connections. So there wouldn't be enough places to splice it, and it also might affect kind of how it stows in place. So I wouldn't recommend it. So there's some questions around the fly-by-wire steering. So probably the toughest thing we had to overcome with this trolling motor was making it feel like a mechanical cable, because we all have that muscle memory like you heard in the video. And basically we have a resistive pedal so that it feels just like a cable. But obviously this is not a mechanical cable. This is simply a digital cable that allows you, shouldn't even call it a cable, it's a digital wire that senses where the foot pedal position is and sends the signal up to the PCB into the motherboard. And so it allows it to steer quickly and stay right in sync without any delay on your pedal, making it feel just like a cable. Now, like I said earlier about reliability, I think if you've been fishing for a long time, you've definitely been involved in replacing out a worn out steering cable in a trolling motor. And so with this, we no longer have to have that work or that trip to the service center. So install a cutoff switch on the hardwire system for charging. So there's some probably great best practices that you should do. One is, when you're done fishing, I like to turn off the pedal. There's nothing really that could happen. We have a lot of safety features on this, so it knows when it's stowed so that the prop button doesn't actually do anything. But it's a great idea to just cut the power to it. You never, I always think of Murphy's Law on a boat anytime I can. And so just turning off the power. And then also at the back of the boat, most new boats come with a breaker switch for your trolling motors. And I think it's a great surefire way to, if you had a mechanical problem with a battery or something like that, it's a great way to protect your trolling motor. So I would recommend putting a breaker switch in. What's great about our motor is even at max speed, it's only pulling 42 amps. And so 50 amp, 60 amp, whatever breakers that you can find common will all work for our trolling motor. So I had a question of, will the keel offset stop the flop? One thing I'll say is, if you have upgraded to the latest software and you've experienced it in stowing where it's flopping around on the deck, you need to upgrade the trolling motor to some software that we've got coming out. And we'll do that through the Lowrance app. And so basically, if you're under navigation and you have the trolling motor stowed, it may try to steer. Now, it's not harming anything, but that's probably what you're talking about. Now, in a really rare case where we have to recalibrate the foot pedal, so for example, if we had to replace a component, we have a way to calibrate a foot pedal so that you get the full travel and the full steering of the trolling motor. And when you do that, you have to recalibrate it so it lays down flat. So if you do come across an odd situation where it's not setting flat on the mount, we have a simple pedal calibration, but it should be a very rare thing, and mainly something that service centers would need to know. So I had a question around, it says I mounted my compass under my boat deck. Lowrance Tech, it should work. I hope he's right. So what I'll say is the compass is not GPS. So it doesn't have to have sight of the sky at all. The only thing it needs to be able to do is be mounted stationary and not have any magnetic interference with it. And so as long as you've done that, you should be fine. And putting it under a bow panel will work out as long as you don't have any interference with it. There's some great smartphone apps for interference finders to help you find that perfect location. I have another compass installed. Do I still need to calibrate? Yes, you do. So anytime you put in the compass sensor for the trolling motor, you do need to calibrate it. So it is different. Okay. I'll wait for another question to come up. Okay, can you eliminate a battery on a 21-foot boat and run it on 24? Yeah, that's a great question. What I'll say is our 24-volt performance is equivalent to what a brush motor is on 36. So the boat actually runs at the same top speed, and with that 60% more efficiency, you can get the same runtime out of your 24-volt system you're used to today. But if you have a 21-foot boat, and if you don't want to ever have to worry about the battery all day, I would suggest go ahead and getting that third battery. Now, if you have an 18 or 19-foot boat and you were thinking about a 36-volt system, I'd say you don't need to do that. And for me, it's great because you can go try it on 24 volts. It's very simple to try. And then if you want to add that 36, all you got to do is put in your another battery. So you don't have to swap out trolling motors. A single trolling motor, single ghost, will run on 24 or 36. All right, so question, if for any reason you turn off the power to the motor when it's in the deployed position, will it be necessary to recalibrate the compass? No. So the compass holds its own calibration. You don't have to worry about that. And so you can shut off the trolling motor and bring it into stow. However, I would leave your trolling motor on and bring it, because it has the auto stow functionality of the head to lay flat. So I wouldn't make that a practice. I would definitely go ahead and stow it and then turn it off if it's your last spot of the day. But throughout the day of fishing, there should be no reason to turn on and off your ghost pedal. So got a question around installation. So obviously we wanted to make this very easy for anglers to install. And so we used very common hole patterns. So if you've come from a Minn Kota or a motor guide, the hole patterns align perfectly to the mount. And so it's very easy and you don't have to drill any new holes. And on the foot pedal tray, this aligns to most Minn Kota pedals as well. So there should be absolutely no holes to drill to mount this, making it quite an easy installation. Now, I'll give you a couple of tips for install. One is when you get this product, the mount will be separate from the main shaft and steering system. And so the shock will not be installed, but basically what you want to make sure to do is have the motor, get your mount on, put it down, and then you're going to come and put the 360 head onto the mount. And when you do that, it's really, really critical that you engage the safety. And so hopefully we can get a good picture or diagram up for you. And basically what I mean by that is there's a safety trigger mechanism that the mount will not open until you put the 360 breakaway on. And that is so that you don't accidentally have the mount with the shock in it so that it would open too quickly. It would be actually very fast opening. And so main thing is when you put the 360 on there is you engage that safety. And you can see the little tab that hangs at the bottom when you're making that install. The question is, can you calibrate the compass with the motor? Yes, and that's actually the way I prefer to do it. So I find it really easy to set at the driver's console and keep it at a 1 o'clock and be able to do that. If you're like me and you already have a 0.1 on your boat, what I like to do is go ahead and set the calibration up on the pedal and to do the compass calibration. And then when I sit down at my console, I actually go ahead and calibrate my 0.1 at the same time. And the reason I do that is because it pulls up the screen for the rate of turn, and it shows you if you're doing the 2 to 3 degree. And so once you've got your 0.1 calibrated, you can be assured that this one, the heading sensor for Ghost, is calibrated as well. That's one of the easiest ways to do it. Is there a grass prop or a different prop available? The one thing about props is that we tried a lot of props. We built quite a few different props, and I'm very, very happy with this prop. We've definitely tested it in some of the harshest weedy vegetation conditions out there. And part of brushless motors is you get so much more low-end torque that it can spin at the lower RPMs and actually break through weeds and shed the weeds really, really well. And so we didn't actually need to build a clear water and a grass prop. So we get great efficiency and we get great grass shedding as well. I was on the water with Ish Monroe one of the first times he took it out, and we were definitely cruising through a lot of vegetation, and he was quite surprised that we had that right out of the box performance. A question around the directional arrow. So if you have an issue with it lagging or sticking, one thing I'll show you on the directional arrow, I'll remove this one real quick. Nice and easy to pull up and pry off there with just a flathead screwdriver. And so this is simply a magnetic indicator arrow. And the reason we went with this design is because in the service interviews that we had done, a lot of the problems that they had seen in the past was because they were splined directly into the motor, the splines would break. So if you went up and just manually turned the arrow indicator in the past, you would actually probably damage the trolling motor. And then also what this allows us to do is keep a completely waterproof membrane between the top half of this plastic and the big metal casing. And so if you smash this on a dock in rain, you can know that it's still waterproof. And so by having the magnetic arrow, if you have any issues with it lagging, we do have a new Teflon ring that it rides on. If you call us, we'll get your name and number, or we'll get your information. We can send you that new Teflon ring. You shouldn't need to use anything to lubricate it or anything. But if you do have debris inside here, it's okay to just use hot water or hot soapy water and to just clean that debris off. And then simply, when you're done, you just take the arrow and it snaps back in place nice and easy. So. So question on, can I get the Ghost trolling motor standard with the 3-in-1 already on it? No, we saw that most anglers, you know, standard I'll say is we tried to keep the price affordable on the 3-in-1, and if you need to, when you make the change up, it's really nice to actually have a spare transducer for your trolling motor anyway. So recommend that you keep your HDI as a backup with you as you're fishing in case you ever run across a situation where you've broken your nose cone transducer. Question is, will you be able to mount a Ninja grass blade on the motor? That's something that I haven't personally validated, and I don't know, but I would say we should do the validation on it before we put it on, just so that we can make sure it doesn't have any adverse effects. So we don't have a yes for that yet. Does the Ghost come set for a voltage? Yeah, so out of the box, the Ghost is set to run on 24 volts. And the main reason for that is so that the battery indicator can function properly. So depending on 24 or 36 that you set it at, it's going to make that battery indicator work right. And it's also going to make the motor perform at its peak. Now, if for some reason it's on 24 and you have 36, or if it's on 36 and you have 24, it's not actually going to harm anything. It's just going to change the characteristic. And so there's a simple way to change that voltage. So I'll let those guys post that procedure on there on how to change the voltage. It's very easy. Yeah, so the question was, please verify, do you install the motor head assembly, then install the shock? Yes, I definitely like to have the mount and everything installed, then put the head assembly on, and then lastly install the shock. For me, it's the most safe, the best practice to do. Question is, how is your troll tamer mounted to your trolling motor? So I don't have a troll tamer on here. I don't know if the live site transducer might be what you're seeing. But troll tamers, I actually haven't looked at. So I don't think you need a troll tamer because the digital steering system, the motor, keeps the force on the position. So you never get that movement of the trolling motor. It never just wanders for you. So question is there a battery indicator on the carbon? No, the only battery indicator is actually on the foot pedal itself at the back. That could be something that we'd like to add in the future. Can you go over course lock versus heading lock? Okay, so the one thing you can do is obviously you have the difference here of setting your course lock and your nav lock. Course lock or heading lock. So heading lock is your boat's heading. So whichever way it's facing, it's going to continue that. So say for example, you're in a river with current, and you want it to keep your boat's right angle of the river. And basically, you don't care about what point you get to on the other side of the river, but you want to maintain your boat's heading, and so that same direction. Course lock, on the other hand, is going to not care about the heading of the boat or the direction that it's actually traveling at its heading degrees, but it's going to continue to maintain the steering towards that certain point across the river, and it would fight more upstream. Hope that answers that question. See if we get some more questions here. Will a 360 mount on the shaft? Yes, it will. So if you are putting a Humber 360, it will clamp on to the upper shaft. The same one that you would use for the Minn Kota Fortrex, not the Maxim. The Maxim is the single piece shaft without the breakaway. So is there a screen on the HDS Live that shows percentage of power being used, heading direction, if the prop is on, etc.? No, it doesn't actually. It doesn't show you that. It does show you what mode you're in, though. So if you do engage in anchor mode or a navigation mode, it will pop up and tell you that the trolling motor is entered into a mode. One nice thing about this trolling motor, and obviously with our displays, is that the software is upgradable. We've got a great Lowrance app. You guys should go out and download that. It's got a great mapping feature built into it. But most importantly, really nicely, it allows you to do software updates from right there on the app directly to the Ghost trolling motor without having to worry about getting an SD card. So Bluetooth connection from your phone to the Ghost to do the updates. So obviously, we launched it, and we've only pushed out one update, and there'll be more to come. Okay. Some great comments coming through. Somebody said their boat with the Ghost is faster than Ricky Bobby. It's fantastic. The question is, does the compass have to be mounted at the nose of the boat? It can actually be mounted anywhere on the boat. It has a 10-foot cable. So if you want to mount it at the transom, maybe you can't find an area at the front without magnetic interference, you can get the extension cable and move it to the back. Question, can you adjust the pedal pressure? So the resistance of the pedal? No, it's done through a liquid-filled resistor. So it's quite stiff. It's made to feel just like a mechanical cable right out of the box. We spent a lot of time getting it to feel just right, but there's no way to adjust it. The nice thing is the pressure shouldn't change on you. Like, you know how mechanical cables would start to wear down over time and get loose? This one should keep its same constant pressure. So the other thing on here I probably didn't cover in the video earlier is that we've come up with the flip switch. So no matter what trolling motor you're used to using, where the momentary button was either on the left or right, we can actually flip this switch. So it's very simple. The angler can do this. There's 2 screws on the back side of the foot pedal. This Lowrance logo slides out, and you can simply flip the switch here and switch around. There is a release for the logo on the back as well. So it's really easy. So if you've grown up your whole life with the button on one side and you prefer it there, you can flip the switch and get it there, making it nice and easy, helping improve that muscle memory. So we have the dedicated anchor. Like I said earlier, you can set the other 3 programmable keys. You've got your momentary on-off. Makes it nice and easy. I think that getting close to covering it. Question is, can you change the waypoint icon from the Ghost? As of right now, it's just set to a standard blue dot. You can go back in and quickly edit those, but that is something that we'd like to improve on in the future. Good question. Okay, well, guys, I love all the question interaction. It's been a great first session. Appreciate you guys tuning in. So when you're out on the water and you're sharing through social, please remember to hashtag Anglers Unite. And we really, really appreciate you guys' Lowrance loyalty and your business. And everybody stay safe. And I hope you guys get some time on the water real soon. Thanks.